October 25th, 1944, 06:45 hours. The Philippine Sea, just off the coast of Samar. The morning air is thick and humid, tasting of salt and impending rain. On the bridge of the destroyer USS Johnston, the world is deceptively quiet. This is Taffy 3, a modest task unit composed of slow, thin-skinned escort carriers and their tiny guardians. They are the backfield, the support, supposedly safe behind the main American invasion force. Suddenly, the calm is shattered not by a siren, but by a sound like a freight train tearing through the sky. A massive column of water erupts off the starboard bow, dyed a sickly purple. Then came another, green, yellow. These aren't random splashes. They are ranging shots from heavy caliber guns using dye-loaded shells to track their fall. Commander Ernest E. Evans, a rugged officer with Cherokee and Creek blood running through his veins, raises his binoculars to the northern horizon. Through the breaks in the mist, the nightmare reveals itself. The distinctive, towering pagoda masts of the Imperial Japanese Navy rise from the sea like jagged mountains. It isn't a raiding party. It is the main Japanese center force. 4 battleships, including the Yamato, the largest warship ever built, displacing nearly 70,000 tons, plus 6 heavy cruisers, 2 light cruisers, and 11 destroyers. Against this armada stands Taffy 3, a handful of jeep carriers made of little more than merchant hulls and sheet metal, protected by 3 destroyers and 4 smaller destroyer escorts. The Japanese officers on the heavy cruisers peer through their optics. To them, the American ships look like panicked insects. The disparity is so comical it borders on insult. The Yamato alone weighs more than every ship in Taffy 3 combined. The Japanese assume this will be a massacre, a simple mopping up operation of a terrified, fleeing enemy. On the Johnston, the crew freezes. They are a Fletcher-class destroyer, a tin can. Their armor is non-existent. Their 5-inch guns are pea shooters compared to the 18.1-inch monsters on the Yamato. Rear Admiral Clifton Sprague, commanding Taffy 3, immediately orders the carriers to turn east and launch planes, frantically radioing for help that is hours away. He orders the destroyers to make smoke, to hide the fleeing carriers behind a chemical fog. But Commander Evans does not wait for orders to retreat. He knows that smoke alone won't stop 14-inch shells. Someone has to buy time. Someone has to walk into the fire. Evans grabs the squawk box, his voice a low growl that cuts through the bridge tension. All hands to general quarters. Prepare to attack major surface units. He turns to the helm, his eyes locked on the giants on the horizon. Left full rudder. While the rest of the fleet turns away, the Johnston turns directly toward the entire Japanese Navy. The gray ocean churns white as the Johnston accelerates to flank speed, her boilers screaming to push her past 30 knots. She is a lone bantamweight sprinter charging a line of heavyweights. The distance is 18,000 yards, too far for her torpedoes, which have a maximum range of 10,000. Evans has to close that gap, and he has to do it under a storm of incoming steel. Geysers of water bracket the ship, shaking the hull like a toy. Evans stands on the open bridge, salt spray soaking his uniform. He is doing something legendary, chasing the splashes. He steers the ship directly toward the column of water from the last shell impact, betting that the Japanese gunners will correct their aim to where he was, not where he is. It is a terrifying death of death. At 14,000 yards, the Johnston opens fire. Her 5-5-inch guns bark in rapid succession. They are firing at the heavy cruiser Kumano, the flagship of the Japanese cruiser division. The American shells spark and ping off the Kumano's thick armor, but Evans isn't trying to sink her with gunfire. He's aiming for her superstructure. He wants to blind her. 5-inch rounds smash into the cruiser's bridge, igniting fires that sweep across her deck. The Japanese are baffled. This tiny American ship isn't behaving like prey. It's behaving like a predator. "Range 10,000, the gunnery officer shouts over the din. This is the moment. Evans gives the order. Fire torpedoes! Within seconds, 10 Mark 15 torpedoes splash into the water, their wake trails fanning out toward the Japanese line. Evans immediately snaps a command to the helm. Hard right, make smoke! The Johnston whips around, her stern digging into the sea, vanishing into a thick, man-made cloud of white chemical fog. For a minute, there is only the sound of engines and the pounding of hearts. The crew holds their breath, counting the seconds. Then a dull, underwater roar vibrates through the steel deck plates. Through a break in the smoke, the crew sees a massive plume of water erupt from the Kumano. A direct hit. The heavy cruiser's bow has been blown clean off. The mighty flagship shudders to a halt, burning and listing, effectively taken out of the fight by a ship 1/10 her size. A cheer goes up on the Johnston, but it is cut short by a deafening crash. The Japanese battleships have found the range. 3 14-inch shells from the Congo slam into the Johnston. These shells are designed to punch through battleship armor. Against the thin tin can, they pass straight through the unarmored hull before exploding, turning the machine spaces into a twisted hellscape of steam and shrapnel. The ship shudders violently. Speed drops. The steering engine is dead. On the fantail, men are thrown like rag dolls. The Johnston is crippled, limping in the water, the smoke clearing to reveal her wounded form to the angry giants on the horizon. A squall of rain passes over, buying them a few minutes of reprieve. On the bridge, Commander Evans is badly wounded. The blast has blown off 2 fingers on his left hand and shredded his shirt. Blood streams down his chest, but he refuses medical aid. With the bridge steering controls dead, he staggers aft, shouting orders to the men on the fantail to steer the ship manually by pulling the rudder cables. Evans is no longer commanding a modern warship. He is wrestling a dying beast with his bare hands. As the rain clears, the Johnston finds herself in a shooting gallery. The Japanese fleet is closing in to finish the carriers. But Evans sees something else. A squadron of Japanese destroyers, led by a light cruiser, is lining up for a torpedo run that would annihilate the American carriers. Evans doesn't hesitate. Commence firing on that lead cruiser. The Johnston, smoking and battered, charges again. This is a knife fight in a phone booth. The range closes to under 6,000 yards. The Johnston is so close to the enemy that her gunners can see the Japanese officers running on their decks. Since the Johnston has expended all her torpedoes and most of her 5-inch shells, the crew gets creative. They turn their 40mm and 20mm anti-aircraft guns, weapons designed to shoot down canvas planes, against the steel hulls of the Japanese ships. Streams of tracers hammer the bridges of the Japanese destroyers. It is a psychological shock. The ferocity of the Johnston is so intense that the Japanese commander, believing he is engaging a heavy cruiser rather than a crippled tin can, orders his squadron to turn away and fire their torpedoes early. The torpedoes drift harmlessly wide of the carriers. The Johnston has single-handedly bluffed an entire destroyer squadron. But the bluff costs them everything. The Japanese battleships return their focus to the nuisance in their midst. The battleship Congo and the heavy cruisers circle the Johnston like wolves around a wounded elk. Shells rain down relentlessly. The 5-inch gun mounts are blown apart one by one until only gun number 4 is firing, operated by a single survivor manually loading and firing while standing amidst the bodies of his shipmates. The engine room takes another direct hit. All power is lost. The ship goes dead in the water. The silence that follows is more terrifying than the noise. There is no hum of engines, no vibration of the screw, just the crackle of fires and the groans of dying steel. At 09:45, Commander Evans gives the final order: abandon ship. Men scramble over the side, plunging into the oil-slicked water. They paddle away, choking on fumes, turning back to watch their home die. The Johnston rolls slowly to starboard, her torn metal skin groaning as the ocean rushes in. She begins to settle by the stern. As the destroyer sinks, a Japanese destroyer, the Yukikaze, slows down and approaches the wreck. The survivors in the water tense up, expecting machine gun fire. They expect execution. Instead, they witness something baffling. On the bridge of the Yukikaze, the Japanese captain stands at attention. He is not smiling. He is not mocking. He raises his hand to the brim of his cap in a sharp, respectful salute to the sinking enemy ship. As the Yukikaze passes, other Japanese sailors line the rail, staring down at the Americans not with hatred, but with awe. They had mocked the tin can earlier that morning, but that tin can had just fought with the ferocity of a samurai. Commander Ernest Evans was never seen again. He went down with his ship, joining the 186 brave souls lost that day. But their sacrifice was not in vain. The Johnston's suicidal charge convinced the Japanese Admiral Kurita that he was facing a massive American fleet. Afraid of air attacks, Kurita ordered his entire force to turn around and retreat. The giant had been turned back by a pygmy. The USS Johnston didn't just fight a battle. She wrote the definition of courage for the United States Navy.